Hey guys, welcome back. It's Jen from Happy Humble Home, and today we're going to make cottage cheese from raw milk. So before we jump into that process, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell if you haven't already, so that way you get notified every time that I upload a video here on Happy Humble Home. All right, let's jump into the cottage. Okay, so first, like I said, we're going to do this from raw milk. There is a way to do it from like pasteurized milk at the store, but you have to add like a vinegar or lemon juice to get it to clabber right. But what we're going to do is, I just picked up the raw milk today. So what we're going to do is, we're going to go ahead, I have a little bit that didn't pour over in my jars. So I'm the only one that likes cottage cheese in my house, so I'm just going to do a small, bless you, pint size jar today. So we're just going to fill this up. And that almost filled it, like almost had just a pint left in that jar. We're going to just top it off. I really love these kind of jars. I will link them where I got them off Amazon. And it also, actually, I'm going to get my other raw milk real quick. Because anytime that I get my raw milk, it's really hard to see in the shadows, but anytime I get my raw milk, I go ahead and pull off the cream because I like having just the cream and coffee, or I'll use it in potato soup. Or I'll use it to make, we might do a little bit of ice cream, I'll make it into butter, or I'll just drink it because I like the cream and it's really good in whipped coffee. If you've never tried whipped coffee and you want to see a quick video on whipped coffee, be sure to let me know in the comments section below, because I love whipped coffee and everybody I introduce it to usually absolutely loves it too if they're a coffee drinker. So first things first though, whenever I get my raw milk, I go ahead and scoop off the cream. So if you haven't done that step yet, you definitely want to go ahead and scoop off the cream off your milk. And that way you have just the raw milk. And that's why I traded, like I could see a little bit of cream was left in this jar, a little bit more than what this one is. So we're just gonna kind of top it off there. And with the cottage cheese, you might want to save some of that cream for the end step that you go ahead and pull off. Like I said, I always go ahead and pull it off anyways. But now all we're going to do is just cover this with like a coffee filter or some cheesecloth, and we're just going to let it set on the counter for about 1 to 5 days depending on your temperature. And you want it to clabber, like that's what you want. You want it room temperature on your counter, covered. So I'm just going to grab my cheesecloth real quick. That was kind of loud, sorry y'all. So I just have like a little piece of doubled cheesecloth here, so we're just gonna put it over the top. If it will cooperate, we will. We'll see. We're attempting to put it over the top. Let's put it that way, y'all, because it's not wanting to work out very well. So it doesn't have to necessarily be double layer. You just need something that can kind of protect it from like any dust and little critters and stuff. And I didn't get loud enough though. We're just gonna have to bring out my blood mouth little thing that hangs in my pantry here that kind of holds all my random canning lids together. So that's what we're gonna do now. If I can get that done, it's all nice and frayed. So we really need to cut a bigger string for that apparently. But yeah. So now I'm just going to take our lid and then keep it, like I said, just like that on your counter for 1 to 5 days until it starts clabbering up and getting thick. Actually. And then I will show y'all our next steps from there. And how long it takes to clabber, it will depend upon kind of the temperature of your house. So I think the last time I made it, it took about 3 days, like 2.5 to 3 days. So we're just gonna kind of set this over here on the counter and just keep an eye on it for a few days, and I'll show y'all what's next. Alright guys, so as you can see here, when I went to set this up, there's still more cream in it than what there needs to be. So I'm just gonna sit here and I'm just gonna take a spoon and just scoop it off. And since this was left out overnight on the counter, I don't really want to keep this cream for that reason. If there's a little bit, it'll mix back in, but there's just definitely more than what I want on top, and that will not allow it to curdle the right way. So that's why we want to get that cream off of the top, because it basically, it's like that protective layer almost for the actual raw milk itself. So that's why we want to scoop that off. And it looks like there was not near as much as what there looked like there was in the video, but it's very easy to see. And you may actually lose a little bit of actual milk with it too. It looks like that. I can see just a little bit floating on top, but not enough that it should inhibit it to clabber like it needs to. But like I said, since it was room temp overnight, I really didn't want to keep that cream, and it wasn't a whole lot. But that's why you want to make sure you pour off your milk either after you have already got the cream out of it, or sometimes what I'll do is I'll go ahead and pour some of the milk, like what's on top, and then that way, and then I'll use what's further down in the jug to sit there and use that. So that way it can clabber easier, and that way most of all my cream's already at the top, or I've already poured it off. But so, oh, and then also whenever it took about 2.5 to 3 days, I did have a quart size jar. So we'll see if this actually takes less time, but yeah. So we're just gonna leave this setting back and let it continue to clabber. All right, hey guys, welcome back. So we're gonna continue making our cottage cheese from raw milk. So it has been about 2 days since I did our milk covered. You can see here how it's kind of like curdled and all jiggly and everything. This morning, there was just a little bit of cream that was still on the top, so I just went in and scooped it off, and when I did, you could definitely tell, like, you can cut the milk now there. So we're just gonna go ahead and take off our cheesecloth here, and like I said, you can kind of, it's kind of hard to see, but I will turn the camera around. So we're just gonna pour it in a small pot, just like that. And then we're going to heat it up on low heat for until, I guess maybe about 10 minutes or so. It's really just until it reaches either between 100 and 110 degrees, because you don't want to go over 110 degrees, because then that will kill off all of our enzymes that we have in the raw milk naturally. So obviously the point of making this is to make it healthier. So we are going to use that, and then I'm going to turn you around and show you what it actually looks like. So I'm going to turn you around and I'm going to show you what it actually looks like in the stove. Okay, so you can see here I kind of have my stove on low, and then we're just going to sit here and just, a slotted spoon works really well to break up the whey from the curds. So that's why we're just going to gently stir it around, and we're just going to let it come up to about, like I said, between 100 to 110 degrees, and then we will continue to do our next step. We're just going to kind of do this right here, wait to heat up. Okay, so now that we've reached kind of that about 105 temperature, we're just gonna pull this off. We're just gonna pull this off the stove right now, and we're gonna let it set for about 10 to 15 minutes till it cools down, and then we're going to put it into, we're gonna pour it up. And again, that took roughly about maybe 5 to 10 minutes on my stove, and I just had it set a little bit above the melt setting, so it was very low temperature. And then also, I realized that this may not be the most accurate way to judge the temperature of it, but it definitely gives me more of an accurate reading than just me trying to eyeball it. And you know, if y'all have one of those little, more like a candy thermometer that you can just clip on the side of your pan or something like that, that works too. But this, I just kind of wing it with this and try to make sure I don't actually touch the bottom of my pan, and tried several different ways. With the pint, I just kind of tilted my pan a little bit, so I kind of had a lot of it more in the center to try to get an actual really good temperature reading on it. But either way, I kept coming up with about 105 to 107 degrees any way that I put it in there. So yes, I understand there's probably better ways to get a more accurate reading, but this is what I have. This works. So, you know, if you prefer to use something else, then that's fine. But there's my little disclaimer for that, because I know inevitably somebody in the comments will tell me that this is not the correct thermometer to use for this particular thing, for this particular recipe, I guess. So yeah, use what you want, use what you have, what you feel is accurate enough or close enough. And now we're just gonna let that set for about, I'm gonna set a timer for about 15 minutes before we separate the curds from the whey. All right guys, so it has been about 10 to 15 minutes. So I was just kind of letting the curds and whey kind of cool down a little bit before I pull them through. So I'm just going to use like a little strainer lined with a cheesecloth. You can do this just strictly with your slotted spoon if you want to, but I think I'm just going to slowly pour it in here and do it this way. So again, you can kind of what it looks like there, how the whey has separated from my curd. So we're going to pour that through our strainer or cheesecloth here. So we're just going to slowly pour through. Let's see, this way to hold this. There we go. A little bit of curd still left in there, but it'll be okay. So then now I'm just going to kind of gently strain off that whey for it. And if y'all have any good recipes on ways to use the whey, if there is really any recipes, I'd love to hear that from y'all. But now I'm going to get a little bowl that I will actually keep my cottage cheese in. So let me set that to the side real quick. And I'm just going to use like one of these little jars that I have. But I'm just going to use my slotted spoon now and just kind of pour. Now it's officially been 15 minutes, so I did it more like at 12 minutes, but it'll be okay. So now I'm just going to rinse that off, and I'll wash that up later. I'm gonna take the cottage cheese here, and then now you can go back in with some of that cream that you pulled off at the beginning and just kind of mix a little bit in there to make it a little creamier, which is what I'm about to do. And I'm also going to put a little bit of salt in here just to give it a little bit more flavor. Typically I use sea salt, but this time I'm just going to use a little bit of pink Himalayan salt. But typically I just use a little bit of sea salt. But this is just kind of what was handy, so that's what we're going to go with. It smells good. It smells like cheese. has that really, I don't know, it just smells really good. So I'm also going to use just a little bit of cream, again, just to make it kind of a little creamier. But you can see, like, I did still, like, there's still a little bit of whey that was in it, so I'm not going to use just a whole lot. So you can kind of let that drain for a little bit, depending on how creamy you actually want it. And then I'm just going to simply mix it like this. Sorry, I put all my jars handles right in the way, y'all. I'm sorry. So we're just going to kind of mix it. And again, this was from about a pint of raw milk. I think if you do about, was what, maybe about a cup or so, you know, I don't really know. And then just, as you're stirring it too, when it's on the stove, the more that you stir it, the more it will break up the curds, which is why a slotted spoon is nice, because that still gives you like that consistency. Like you can see the cream cheese consistency, and of course the true taste test. I definitely prefer it cold. It is still kind of warm from what it was cooking down and separating. So I'm gonna just pop this in the refrigerator and then sprinkle or drizzle a little bit of honey on top. And it's good just to come get a couple little bites, or just make this like a little serving. Add some chia seeds or some honey. And there's a way to make some homemade cottage cheese from raw milk. If y'all have any questions or anything, be sure to leave them in the description box below, and I will check in with y'all later. Bye.